Okay, full disclosure. I don't know if this is the real Hera. This is a very new account. It only has 45 games played, but has a 93.3% win rate. Is 36th in the world right now. Now, this could be Hera, or it could just be someone memeing. I've checked the profile, and it's not linked to his Twitch account. So that would suggest that it's not. But in theory, there's nothing to stop someone from making a new account and it not being linked yet. We'll have to see. But for now, if for nothing else, for the click value, ladies and gentlemen, Hera versus Lenok. Let's go. Did we ever get to see this matchup in competitive as well? I don't think we did. I cannot remember ever seeing it, actually, so I'd be surprised if we did. Well, anyway, let's talk about the Civ matchups, because it looks like we have got a Delhi Abbasid matchup here. Lenok playing the Abbas, but Hera coming through with what I usually see kind of like the powerhouse Civ on this map. It's very hard to deal with as it escalates well. Also, I think like this can be quite a bad matchup for the Abbasids unless you really outplay your opponent. The reason is that if your goal is to kind of outmass your opponent with crap, that does play towards the Delhi advantage because they build into that loads of crap thrown at you strategy as well. The difference, however, is that the Delhi are able to heal. Now, the X factor that allows you to outskill your opponent that I was highlighting a moment ago, it's the camels. If you use camels really well and you get into like a cower and cower engagement, you can screw your opponent. The problem is the demand for what you need. You need horsemen and camel archers as well as the infrastructure to produce them. Not only do the Delhi get their infrastructure cheaper because they double up the efficiency of their existing ones, but because they're also a berry civ, they can afford that strain of food demand. And it means that it's, you usually find yourself in a situation where it's very hard to keep up with the horseman push and then into the spearman push of the Delhi. If you do out-micro them and snipe really well with your camel archers to take out spears, then it starts to turn in your favor. But that's a key detail, and the problem is that build-up can be quite delayed and sometimes a little bit too late up against the Delhi if they start to prioritize the sacred sites, which they always do. It's their true win condition. By the way, for those coming through now, because I know there's going to be some more questions, like, yes, Lenok is ranked 8th in the world right now. This Hera count is 36 for 45 games played. Like I said, I'm not... I had to do it for more so the fact that someone had gone for this name, if nothing else. This is probably a smurf. That would be my guess, but I kind of hope it's not. It'd be quite funny, this kind of like the storyline there of Rage quits AoE 4 to go to League of Legends, returns to AoE 2, and then comes back to Age of Empires 4. Like, just the circle of life for Hera is those 3 different games at that stage. It'd be beautiful. Tech up now, starting to come out from Hera. We didn't talk about the spawns, by the way. Like, I don't expect much attention to be on the base, though, so I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference, but this is a good spawn for Lenok. He is well defended here. He should be able to easily block any raids into his wood lines and sustain himself on wood long term. This also might encourage him to going into archers, but you need to be very careful of that. You need to see a reason to do so first, so you do need to see Hera going into racks and spears. Now, Hera also got the same type of generation. In fact, overall, like, a lot of these details are pretty fair. Now, for example, the gold here, it's stacked close for Hera. On the other side, you can see the gold is separate for Lenok. But this plays to their advantages. His stone is close to his base, which is more value for you. And realistically, like, you could see this as a downside. Everyone always thinks that having your gold veins next to each other is, like, very efficient and very good. The reason it can be a weakness, though, is that you find yourself in this awkward situation where if your opponent outpost rushes you, which I've heard is somewhat popular in the current meta, you could be blocked out by 1 tower out of all your gold. Interesting thing to think about is that Lenok didn't even go for that play, though. I've seen Abbasid players going for this play recently. It disgusts me to say it, but yeah, I think it's fair to point out that when the Abbasids are doing outpost rushes as well, we've reached the point where it needs to be nerfed. Sorry, Abbasid enthusiasts, but I do usually see you as the dog tier Civ. And although some people have been amazing me recently with the way they utilize camels, it's still a Civ that feels a little bit more map and Civ matchup specific than any other in the game. Speaking of this Civ and the thing that it does well, of course, stone is always in the menu, as it looks like he's going hard onto that for the second TC. This can be risky. You need to be very careful about the way you balance your secondary TC. Otherwise, you give away the entire mid-map. Because what's going to happen now is you're going to be building towards eco benefits while Hera is going to be building towards military. And that military count is going to be very important because it leverages the sacred sites and turns it into economy. So, then also, by the way, this is something that Hera is fully aware of. Knows you're gathering on the stone. You can see how many people got work on the food. You should understand the lay of the land here. It is just going to be the secondary TC naked with no defense and no aggressive force. Meanwhile, Hera now already getting to this horseman with the production efficiency online. So banking the scholar in. This is basically 2 stables. Only takes 11 seconds to push those horsemen. And the cool thing about horsemen, I feel like I say it a lot, but it's because it's such a big deal, is that they deny scouts. These scouts have to run away, and as they run away, they take damage. They can never, like, turn around and go back in. You can never just bamboozle your opponent because you can always be chased and out-raced by the horses. Horses that are actually going straight for that TC, or rather the TC line. You can see he's gathering the stone he needs for it. I think this is going to be a condensed one as well because Lenok doesn't have a choice. He doesn't have any defenses. Thank God he noticed quickly. I've seen too many times recently where people end up garrisoning for 10 seconds plus, and there's a defensive TC in the choke point. Understandably so, but this is where Hera should just fall back to deal with the sacred sites. You're still waiting on Sanctity so you can raid in the meantime, but in the next minute and a half, like, you need to be pushing towards those sacred sites. In fact, in about 45 seconds, I'm expecting scholars to start coming out and marching towards those sacred sites. Does need to sort the housing first, though. That slowed them down a little. And it is going to be the racks as expected. I always find the rack stables a little bit baity up against the Abbasids, just because if you are going towards spears and your opponent then goes towards, say, Horseman Spears too, like, the Abbasid ones just fare better. Phalanx. Phalanx is phenomenal. If he now blindly goes into archers, or rather sees the racks and still goes into archers because it feels like a good counter, that's when I think it's a bit awkward, because usually by that point the Delhi have a lot of horsemen in the field, and it can heavily discount what you're trying to do in comparison. So if I'm Lenok in this situation, it probably feels better to go towards the spears to be safe. Just create a melee mosh pit. Problem with that is, like, scholars, I think, and that's, yeah, why he's going to go for archery range. Holy Trinity could also be an option. In fact, I think that's the best way to go. So if you think about it, you need the archers because you need something to, you not only need the camel archers to negate the damage of your opponent's front line, but you also need the camel archers that can snipe out spears, or archers to snipe out spears. You still do want spears in the mixer because I think yours are just better, phenomenally better than Delhi. The problem is, without archers first in enough of a clump of like 10 plus, you have no answer to scholars. I think this is what makes the Delhi very oppressive in a lot of these feudal matchups, is they dictate what you have to do with your composition. They say you have to have archers, because if you don't have archers, you don't logically have a means to reach scholars, unless you are tripling up your opponent's melee count, which is just not feasible. In fact, if you think of practically any matchup that involves the Delhi, by 15 minutes, unless they have made huge mistakes in the way they took fights, it's very rare that they are behind in terms of pop cap on their military. In fact, right now, you can see he's quadrupling up Lenok. Lee will try to make up the deficit by going for the double stable now. Sacred sites now being walled in. Actually, I didn't even highlight this. This is one of the weirdest sacred site spawns I've seen. It's so far out there. I don't remember the last time I saw Dry Arabian sacred site that was against the edge of the map. I see it quite a bit on Hill and Dale, but not so much here. Beneficial as well. Allows you something easily capable far away from your opponent's base that you can also wall in, as you're seeing with the spearman. He's already doing that in the center as well. In fact, he can't. Yeah, okay. Something went wrong there. I think he didn't have enough wood was the problem. Yeah. So I think he was maybe missing production for the entire wood line if he tried to do both at the same time. So delay doing the secondary. Lenok, well, he needs to be fast and massing up here. The concern is whether you're going to have enough food in your base to cover you. If you look, he's only got 4 sheep here. Not that much in berry reserves. And the back berry line has been exposed. That was the key detail to look for here. Great wraparound out of Hera. Blocks him off and cuts him down. A heavy loss here. Lenok cannot even run away. Wow, that's a heavy hit. I don't think he even noticed in the end. I think he was distracted because on the sacred site he was trying to snipe out here as the wolves are even trying to help him out, but that's not going to be enough. And that is a heavy sting into his eco. Lenok, although he won't run out of food for the next 2 to 3 minutes, he's going to run out of food now. He needs to guard this area. If he cannot get this extension, there's no way he can really go. Because going for the deer is ahead of your base, and any other berries around here fill out in no man's land. This is one of those tough parts about the spawns. Like, you want a wall, but walling this gap seems excessive. It might be needed, though. The problem is, can you afford that burden on your eco when you just lost villagers like that? Because you need to build a bigger army. You need to do it fast, and the horsemen are outnumbered here. Have to back away, and this is the warrior we were highlighting here. When you start from behind on building up military up against the Delhi, you better have a big one-up that allows you to gap close that military difference. Otherwise, you're always going to be behind. Sad to say, for Lenok, he doesn't really have that one-up right now. Even the secondary TC, after being stripped of his berry line the way he was, he's only 3 villages ahead. And that doesn't really compare now to what Hera has. Double Sacred Site control, that's 300 extra gold. Sizable chunk of extra eco coming, about 6.6 in fact. Wait, no, that was bad maths. It's 7. Yeah, 7.5. Dumb math from me. 7.5 extra villages though. And remember, you can trade that gold away. He can get a marketplace, or he can now just save up for a tech up. Oh. This... Wait, can the Scholar actually out-heal the Camel Archer? He might be able to. Although Hera isn't paying attention right now. He can move him the spears and stab these guys down. Stop them from getting through. Seems like Hera hasn't noticed though. He's distracted on the right side. The Scholar's caught out of position here. Oh, not the Wolves. Even the Wolves are joining in. And Horsemen need to be careful. He needs to get behind that front line. If he loses the Camel Archers, he loses the upside. Yes, he's outmassed in terms of Horseman count, but the damage is in favor of him right now due to the Aura. But the Aura is now gone. Means he'll have to back away. And Sacred Site, decap can be blocked out here just before it would finish. It's going to be a frustration. Countdown can continue. And also, on top of that, remember that now the gold keeps ticking in favor of Hera. Left wall line. It's going to take a long time to get through this. Feels like Hera's going to get his tech up before you even get through it, in fact. Yeah, definitely with the wall-ins now coming over here as well. Horseman. Bad trade coming out for Hera. Didn't commit the Spearman as well. Tried to wall up instead. Was willing to throw away the army. Now move out the spears, which should force his opponent away. Lennox seems to be content with a good trade, but realistically, he could be pushing this. The problem is he only has 1 Camel Archer right now. 2 more coming in. There's bait out into the midfield. Could actually cause Hera to lose the fight. Mine is almost through on the left side here. Haha, just kidding. Did you guys think he was almost done? Only halfway. Still a long way to go. Tech up. Not too far to go over Hera. Wall up will continue. He needs to quick wall this, though. It's going to be too slow. Even if he loses the Sacred Site, though, even if he loses that win condition, he's unlocking a new one. Build up into the House of Learning, so could end up seeing a play towards the Man-at-Arms here. I actually prefer Man-at-Arms to Lancers, but it looks like he's stacking for Lancers with Trip Stables. The reason I prefer Man-at-Arms in this matchup is because you're playing Delhi. You can get to Force March. If you get Force March, you have the ability to gap close. So that's not the issue. And once you do gap close, your damage isn't being heavily discounted by the camels. I'm still not sure who this Hera is. I'm trying to figure like logical players could be people that we don't see grinding much on the ladders themselves. And also people that would find it funny to do this. To use this name. I don't know if this is like to the taste of Lucifron or Vortex. Marine Lord? Maybe. I mean, he's playing this as well as Marine Lord would. Although there was some weird kind of exchanges with the spears, so maybe not. This could be like Salami? Nah, I don't think it's Salami. Playstyle doesn't seem right. I think that's just the bias of like, this is Delhi, so it makes sense. It could just be like Puppy Paw or Wham. Actually, this is very much like their Delhi. This feels like Wham's Delhi. Wait, actually, Wham plays slightly more defensive than Puppy Paw. Those dive-ins, that move. Yeah, I think it's most likely Puppy Paw. Puppy Paw or Wham seems logical. Oh, apparently it's a Canadian account. Okay, so then probably I'll write on that one. Okay. It's actually refreshing when you like watch players so much that you kind of get familiar with their playstyles. But yeah, this definitely fits the Canadian bros. They play a lot like this. Let's just check the upgrades, actually. Oh, no, guys, everything's being researched on time. This is definitely Wham. Actually, let's check. Did he get the lumber camp upgrades? Yep. Oh, wait, no. Oh, where's the lumber preservation right now? This is starting to feel like it could be puppy paw. We'll never know. We'll have to ask him later. The funny part is you have to remember, although this seems like a smurf, let's also keep in mind that Hera's Canadian, yes? So, this doesn't necessarily narrow it down at all. It could be someone just trolling to the maximum correctly with VPN, or it could actually be Hera making a return. Like, I just don't know. I would love for it to be Hera making a return. Kind of just because the egg on the face after the opinions given on Age of Empires 4, but also because I'd love to see more players coming back. If it is him, oh my god, that was a bit laggy. If it is him, this is looking phenomenal right now because he's turning the screws on Leenock. Leenock struggling to actually maintain control around his own base. Castlade just finally reached for him, but the Lancers are starting to stack up. Remember, Hera always keep the lead, and although the Delhi tend to keep the PopCap lead, usually it's through cheap crap. This isn't cheap crap anymore. This is the good stuff. All right, he stopped whipping out the Jack Daniels. Now he's got the 30-year-old McGannons. Whew. And it definitely has quite the burn on the throat when you drink it. Right now, it's being rammed down his throat, sword and all. Camel Archers, because they haven't been upgraded, they don't really discount the Lancers that much. Chase down just becoming quite the issue, and you can see the issue for Leenock. He's running out of resources. Berry's almost dry, has got the reserves, but spotted on the deer, slowed down there. And Lee, although he still has a 15 eco advantage, all 3 sacred sites once again capped by Hera, giving him a 10-point plus differential. In fact, 12 point. Oh, wait, it's so 450. Yeah, so it's 11 and a little bit. Village's worth. On top of that, remember that he's picking up relics. He already has 4. He's miles ahead. And I suspect that Leenock suspects that Hera's in control. No. No! No! He run! No one has ever been so scared of an old man wielding a very long, thick object. But you have to be right. He tries to wall him in. Hera's stuck. Lancers are wrapping in, though. Wallalo. The shiv's out. Oh, the Lancers! Well, he won't be converted. Not in this life. He's going to be converted to the afterlife. Once again, no textiles out in the middle of no man's land. Hera is going to strike deep. Leenock. His eco might be unrecoverable after this. God, the death screams. If there's any noise you hear more often than any other of the Abbasids, it's people dying. Shows in the win rate, shows in this game, so many villagers dead, and now just a 5-villager differential between them. But all the economical benefits of Hera outweigh what Leenock has. And now his army being wiped. You see the Lancers just getting so strong at this stage. Cool little detail to consider, by the way. By having the Honed Blades, which is about to complete, he more or less offsets the Camel Aura. You saw he's losing 5 damage total, but he's going to get extra 3 damage. So it's fairly efficient at actually offsetting entirely. And it's kind of crazy because it makes Knights function similarly to Horsemen. In that instead of it being a 20% differential, it feels more like a 10%. And oh god, he's in. And Leenock's out of food. He's completely out of food. He's setting up farms. And the read is so on point from Hera. He'll move out the other side due to the Spearman pursuing, but he's bringing in new groups, and now he's going for the keep drop. A keep drop on the wood line because wood is exactly what Leenock needs. He's panic setting up the farms. And just a few Lancers keeping him condensed, pushed in. I think this is going to strain his eco too much. It's very difficult. Your wood line running out here with the keep drop coming in and the Knights still flooding in, as well as the Sacred Site timer just ticking down. There's just too many variables for Leenock to handle, especially when he's forced to push infantry. He can't react to all of them and shifts out. He's had enough of being bullied. But Hera ain't done giving the bullying. Takes the villager lead. And folks, you're 2 TC Abbasids this whole time. If your opponent takes the lead, you've lost the game. Especially when they're in a deli like this. This new ride-in of Lancers going to force him off the wood. At least gets enough to set up the farms, but now he's lost access to that wood line. It just means that Hera can focus attention on the left side of the base. And another defense you're going to have to get through if you ever want to decap these sacred sites. Decaps that seem not even feasible when you consider he can't push cavalry anymore. And even if he did, he'd need to breach through all these palisade defenses. And GG's getting a bit called. I don't know if it is the real Hera or not. I kind of hope it is so we get more players coming in. And if it is, my God, he looks like he never left. Realistically, though, this is probably one of the Canadian bros. If it's showing that it's a Canadian on the registration account, like, remember that Hera is Canadian, but it could easily be Poppy Paw and Wham. I think like this definitely felt like Poppy Paw style. Memes aside about him missing tech ups. Could also be Wham, but I think Wham's a little bit, not slower, but more like defensively oriented compared to his brother. And I think that aggression with the Horseman early on to the back berries was really something I'd expect out of Poppy Paw. So yeah, I think this was one of our Canadian bros here. Although it is a shame it wasn't Hera. All the same, quite funny to see a Hera named account back up in the top 40, top 30, even if it does belong to a different Canadian.